Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the SEC Morning Report. It is September 26th, a Tuesday, and we are going over, as we do each and every Tuesday, things that were said in SEC coaches' press conferences and also injuries around the league. We always get those reports on Monday, and this is the place where you can kind of put it all together here. And we're going to be diving into that here in just a minute. But did want to say, guys, if you want a nutritious and delicious snack, then you need to check out our partner here on the show, CHOMPS. All the description of everything is in the description of this video. And also you can get a little discount there, 15% discount for ordering your CHOMPS, guys, whether it's venison, beef, turkey, all the different flavors, 9 different flavors. You need to check out CHOMPS for a good game day snack or just throughout the day to get you a little something to fill you up there. CHOMPS, they don't stay in stock long for people around this house and around people in Southeastern 14. I got some samples not too long ago, and man, they are delicious, and we've been going out and getting them since. So CHOMPS, check it out right now. Also, if you want to partner with Southeastern 14, hit up caroline.smith at southeastern14.com, and you can be an MVP here with us. Now, getting right into it, guys, we like to go through what was said at some of these press conferences by the coaches and kind of dive into some of their comments. Also, like to go on the injuries. So I want to start off none other than there's a big game on the Plains, and you look at Georgia and Auburn. We all know that it's the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Okay, there's a lot of animosity in this rivalry, and it must be lost on the new head coach over there at Auburn, Hugh Freeze, because he was asked about this. And one thing that he said is, he goes, I don't know that there's as much hatred there in this rivalry as there are some he's been around. And I don't know that struck some of the Auburn fans the correct way. I know Georgia fans on Twitter and things like that on the comments where I saw it posted were like, what are you talking about? Hating Auburn is like a pastime of ours. That's like something, there's whole post on message board dedicated to this Auburn, Georgia hate week out there. So I think that caught a few people, off guard with Hugh Freeze saying that. Now, I know what he was trying to say. He's a believer, as am I. And he was talking about, not hating people. And I don't literally hate people in that way, but I think college football rivalries, to hate that other program, to have that desire to beat that other program, that is definitely there between Georgia and Auburn. He talked a lot about doing stuff for Auburn and things like that, but want to know your guys' thoughts. I mean, is it okay, not the people involved, but to hate those colors, to hate that program, to have that just animosity towards a rival? I think that's part of what makes college football great. You see, this is going to be a 3:30 kickoff, but did want to put this up here. This is Hugh Freeze. He was answering a question about expectations in a program, and saying it takes time to get a roster turned over, get the people you want in there. So he kind of, they're playing Georgia this week. He kind of led into that of Georgia, and he misspoke a little bit on how long he thought it took Georgia to turn around. So listen to this clip, and then we'll break it down when we come back.
I don't know how long it took him. I don't know. What did it take him, 3 years or so to get there, or 4 years? I don't know. Some of y'all could do the research, but his second year, I don't know that that's accurate, but anyway, so he did it pretty fast then. That's pretty impressive. It's even more impressive.
So there's Hugh Freeze. He says, hey, it probably took him 3 or 4 years to get that thing turned around. And a reporter off camera says, no, he got to the national championship game in his second year. And he was like, I don't know if that's accurate. So the whole point he was trying to make is there was people on social media and people already talking about coordinator changes, talking about, does Hugh need to get more involved, different players here and there and all that kind of stuff. And he's been trying to manage expectations. He says, hey, this roster is not where it needs to be right now. And he said that multiple times. And he's also talked about, hey, it takes time to build a program. He's undaunted by it, all this kind of stuff. But he was a little bit caught off guard when they said, hey, it was Kirby's second year that he took a freshman quarterback, in fact, and took him to the national championship game against Alabama. Now, it took him a while longer to actually win the national championship, but I thought that was a funny moment there. Another funny moment, a moment, kind of lighthearted moment in these press conferences was Mark Stoops. This was a question, and you'll hear the question, but it was referring to, hey, this is going to be a 12 o'clock kickoff. Are the Kentucky fans going to be up for the challenge to create a hostile road environment for the Florida Gators? And I loved this answer from Mark Stoops.
Great confidence in the people of Kentucky that can get up very early and pound some beers. Why would you disrespect this great state and the great people of it?
Mark Stoops is, I just love his demeanor. I love how he goes about things. He's a normal guy. Like you see Mark Stoops out, and you could go up and have a conversation with him. If that's your thing, having a beer, you could go up and have a beer with him. I mean, Mark Stoops is just a down to earth, blue collar, tough guy. I mean, he is into the alcohol side of things. He's got his own bourbon up there, as lots of people do around that area in Lexington. Everybody seems to be getting into the bourbon game, but Mark Stoops has his own line over there, so I'm sure he would. I'm surprised he didn't put a plug in there to, hey, go over there. But Mark Stoops is not only helping out, encouraging Kentucky fans to be good, he's helping out the economy around there. That's going to produce a little bump in maybe some runs to the local stores there around Lexington before kickoff to get a little bit extra ammunition when it comes to getting those Kentucky fans ready for a 12 noon kick with the Gators coming in. So I thought that was a great quote there by Mark Stoops. And, it's good to see these coaches peel back the shell a little bit and have a little bit of fun when they're answering some of these questions. We see Lane Kiffin do that all the time. Mark Stoops does it. Even Kirby Smart and Nick Saban have started to dabble into that a little bit. But not everything, guys, is totally, fun and games. There are a serious side to a lot of these things. And I thought there was a great moment in the press conference for Sam Pittman when he was talking about mental health and social media and how it can impact kids that are playing these programs, how it can impact him. Sam Pittman actually deactivated his Twitter account this past week after some things that just kind of got to him and got to some of his players and things like that. So he decided they'd be better off without looking at some of those things and listening to him. So he's off of X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it these days. He's off of that now. But I thought this story about his punter Max Fletcher, and then also some stuff that his thoughts in general were pretty telling here. So listen to this quote from Sam Pittman on mental health, social media, several of those things right here.
Mental health is a big deal. We talk about it. We have several guys that are in counseling. We encourage it. Fletcher was at practice on Monday. He's lower and low. And I said, hey, Max, what's wrong with you? Social media. I said, I ain't gonna tell you everything I said, but I said, what are they saying, man? Went to Australia to get a 10-yard punter and, all this kind of stuff. Why'd you go all that way to get a guy that can't kick? All that. And I said, Max, they didn't say I'm fat on there, did they? He said, yes, sir. I said, what about my chest? Did they say anything about that? He started smiling then. He said, yes, sir. And I said, was I supposed to get fired on Sunday? He said, Yes, sir. I said, well, I'm still here. They got 2 out of 3 right, and so. And then I think a big part of him is, he punted once for 53 yards and then he did the fake, and I was really happy for him. But to answer your question, there's we talk about a lot of things, and one of them happens to be mental health, that we need to help these kids. There's a lot more going on in their life right now than possibly when I was a kid.
So you hear Sam Pittman there, you hear that, obviously he's making lighthearted of it, but there was people talking about, Sam Pittman, there's pictures of him, with his arm around people, and it kind of accentuated his chest area a little bit there, and people had a lot of fun with that, poking at people and stuff like that, I guess is part of the culture thing of their appearance and stuff like that. I think anytime there's people that are in a public forum and you're doing things, whether it's coaching, playing sports, all that kind of stuff, me doing this show, anybody can say anything about you in terms of your performance. That's fine. I think, but when you start to, just be harmful and go after people's appearance and stuff like that, a lot of times it's uncalled for, not the greatest thing out there, but hey, you have the ability just to ignore it, and that's what Sam Pittman has decided to do by deactivating his account. And you can tell he was trying to impart some wisdom on his punter there. So I think it's important to remember that, hey, there's people out there behind these. It's not just a player in a jersey or a coach out there with a headset on. There's a person behind that, and they have to live with not only the success and failures and the pressure and all that kind of stuff, but then they've got to deal with a lot of the scrutiny and stuff as well. So I think it's great to be a passionate fan of college football. I really do. I think it's great to have passion for your program against other programs, all that kind of stuff. But I would just encourage people to remember that there's people involved in these things that I think gets lost sight of as we go throughout our time reacting to these games and stuff like that. So always be cognizant of that. Like in the Tennessee and South Carolina rivalry game, revenge game that's coming up here in Neyland Stadium, it's going to be absolutely crazy. You see the score there, the Vegas odds there. It's now grown to a 12.5 point favorite in favor of Tennessee in Vegas, but going to be a night game. There's pictures swirling about maybe Tennessee could wear the black uniforms. I mean, it's going to be a great atmosphere, but you got people out there in South Carolina and Twitter, universe, and also the Tennessee Twitter or X universe that are like somehow trying to get at each other by one talking about Marcus Lattimore's injury, the other side talking about Hendon Hooker's injuries. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Okay, these are injuries. That we're somehow making fun of or using to make a point or something like that. Let's have enough of that. That's too much, and I think people are better than that. So let's be better SEC fans than that, in my opinion. All right, getting to the current injuries here. Auburn still going to be without Keontae Scott, of course, who had surgery on the ankle, and also Austin Keys, who had surgery on his thumb after the UMass game. So that's a starting safety. That's a starting Mike linebacker. They lost Damari Alston for a while. He won't be available for the Georgia game. Maybe their most consistent running back this year. They do have Jarquez Hunter, Brian Batty, Jeremiah Cobb that can go behind him. But Damari Alston was being very physical runner, could catch the ball out of the backfield, was picking up blitzes, things like that. And now he's going to be out for a little bit, few weeks there with a separated shoulder. On the other side of that Auburn and Georgia matchup, Ladd McConkey is going to be practicing this week. He was running, cutting, doing a lot of stuff last week. And listen, if I was a betting man, I would say if there is any way that Ladd McConkey can possibly go, that he's going to go in this one. Georgia has missed him in terms of just his energy out there, his leadership, playmaking ability. So he's had some back troubles, and they're trying to get him ready to go. He will be practicing this week, and we'll see how he responds. Of course, Javon Bullard, I think, is going to be good to go off that ankle coming back. He probably was held out of precaution last week against UAB, going to get healthy, and that will be big, getting him back on the back end to help out with that defensive communication and also just the leadership and energy he brings on the defense. So two possibly big guys returning for Georgia. Lawson Lucky's getting closer and closer as a tight end that could help not only run blocking, but also add another weapon in the passing game. So he's getting closer from return to that ankle, but he's got to practice and get through that. And then I think you'll see Kendall Milton get closer to being back to available for Georgia. So he was coming off a lower body injury as well, but kind of just have to wait and see with Kendall Milton. He's been banged up so much over his career. We'll see if he's able to get back for this SEC game on the road. But other than that, Georgia, they have a tremendous injury list banged up that Kirby Smart has said his team has been, coming into a game was last week against UAB. Austin Blasky still trying to get back from a knee. Kendall Milton, that, like I mentioned, that knee is questionable. And Roger Robinson, another running back that was out last week with an ankle, freshman running back. So there's lots of guys that are trying to turn the corner for Georgia, and that Deep South oldest rivalry is going to have plenty of guys that are going to try to gut through injuries. Whether on the Auburn side, that's like DJ James, who went in and out of the game. Zion Puckett, Hugh Freeze said, that he's going to try to figure it out, see if he can go. Donovan Kaufman was in and out at times, so he's going to try to gut it out. So we'll see on the injuries over there. Ole Miss, nothing really new for Ole Miss, but Lane Kiffin just kind of talked more about how unique it was that they had three guys that had come off minor surgeries deal, and Trey Harris, Caden Prescorn, and Zachary Franklin, that were all trying to kind of really ramp up to full speed as quickly as they could, and maybe a little sooner than they should in that Alabama game. So maybe we'll see a bigger jump from those guys after they've played a game now, see how it's responded, the injuries that they've gone through, and now they'll be, have a little bit of knock that game rust off of them as they head into that LSU game as well. One of the bigger injuries to report on is Connor Weigman in that Arkansas and Texas A&M game. Of course, that is being played in Jerry's World, 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central. Jimbo Fisher said, hey, it's not really that bad. We're going to take it day to day, things like that. But when it's a high ankle sprain like that, and they talked about on ESPN about him, shrieking in pain on the sideline when they were doing the evaluation of his ankle there. And then especially the way Max Johnson came in and played for that offense. I don't know that that's something you rush back. There's rumors around saying that it could be 2 to 4 weeks, but that was definitely not confirmed by Jimbo Fisher. He viewed it more day to day and something that's going to be kind of managing pain and seeing how he responds and stuff like that. But if you have a guy like Max Johnson who is able to go and is going to be healthy, that probably gives you a better chance than a hobbled up Connor Weigman. It was his back ankle, his right ankle. So when he's pushing off, throwing, that's the ankle he would have to push off of to get, zip on the football and things like that, and not just rely on his arm. So you also got to take that into account, because if a quarterback is hampered on his lower body and then he starts to overcompensate, it could give you some shoulder issues and stuff like that. So there's just a lot to take into account when you're talking about a quarterback in the SEC level. Now, you do have to be tough and be able to play through things. And, you got all the examples over the years of like Brett Favre with his streak out there, and Eli Manning playing so many games in a row and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, if you've got a guy like a Max Johnson who has 4,600 passing yards plus in his career, a little over 4,600 in his career as an SEC quarterback, with 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And then the way he looked in that Auburn game when he came in and was just dealing, I think Max Johnson would be absolutely fine if they have to turn to him. But, in terms of in terms of, there's a reason Connor Weigman was named the starter. I'm sure they want him to be able to go, but I think this is a deal where you got to be more cautious than anything with that injury, because the ankle injuries, it can turn into something that's really, really lingering and takes a lot longer than you want it to take, and if you are not careful with it going forward. So I think that's something that you have to be cognizant of there. We talked about South Carolina and Tennessee. South Carolina doesn't really have a whole lot of new injuries to report. I think they're going to be about as healthy as you can expect. Of course, Juice Wells does not look to be available. He was not even listed on the depth chart for this South Carolina game versus Tennessee when they released it this week. So I think that's, they're going to continue to be, it's going to continue to be the Spencer Rattler and the Xavier Legette show there. So we'll see how things go forward there. I think Tennessee, the biggest thing for them is, do they get Mays back? I mean, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be able to go? Mincey had some suspension issues and stuff like that. Will he be available? I think both of them are going to be. So I think that's something that you have to look at as well. And then Jalen Wright, a little bit banged up. He exited the game against UTSA. Not really known. It's undisclosed injury. So we'll see if he's ready to face South Carolina on Saturday. But guys, other than that, LSU looks to be really healthy. Brian Kelly said all the guys that were kind of questionable, Omar Spades and Mason Taylor, the week prior going into Arkansas, are ready to go. So they should be ready to face Ole Miss over there. But Florida, the big question for Florida going into the Kentucky game is, will Kinsley be able to go? Florida's running game is just so much better. The offensive line as a whole is so much better when Kinsley Aguakon is able to go. He's going to practice on Tuesday, Billy Napier said, and they'll kind of see from there how he responds to things. He'll know more on Wednesday, he told the media. But he, make no mistake about it, he is the straw that stirs the drink for that offensive line, and really helps get that run game going, and just brings a lot of leadership to that front there when you're talking about the Florida Gators. And then finally, the big question with Kentucky is, will Kenneth Horsey be back for this game? He kind of gave a non-answer in the press conference. He said, hey, we'll see, yet to be determined, things like that. He is improving. He is getting better. They've had Dylan Ray, the transfer from West Virginia, who was a tackle, fill in at that guard since Kenneth Horsey has been out with injury that he sustained on week 1, a knee injury that looked at the time when he got carted off against Ball State, it looked to be just an awful injury, possibly a season-ending one, but that turned out not to be the case. And if there's a big game, a big opportunity for Kentucky when they're getting Florida at home, that Mark Stoops and Liam Cohen would love to have Kenneth Horsey back in the lineup. So we'll see if he can work his way back from that knee injury and be ready to go Saturday when the Gators head into Lexington. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed a little bit of fun at the top, talking about some of these fun quotes and things like that coaches say, and then also catching you up on the injury news around the league. Other than a couple that we mentioned, relatively healthy for this point in the year for some of these SEC teams. Georgia really the most banged up of anybody right now on that end in terms of the number of injuries. So we'll see how many of those guys get back. But thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, guys. We have a live show with Chris Lee, Gavin Schoenwald. Sometimes Blake Lovell is in there every day from 11 to 12 Central. That's 12 to 1 Eastern. And then also starting on October 9th, Blake Lovell is going to have a daily SEC basketball show right here on the channel. So it's not just football starting October 9th. The basketball show is going to get rolling. And then tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Tavares King and Noshawn Marino join me as they will every Wednesday night going forward for players section here. It's going to be the viewpoint of former SEC players. Of course, they both played in the NFL, as well as we talk about SEC football and take your calls. We will take your calls. You'll be able to join via a link right here where you hop in on stage with us and talk SEC football with two former great SEC players and also former NFL players in Tavares King and Noshawn Marino. So like I said, a lot to like here on this channel. Like this video, that helps out a lot. Subscribe, it's absolutely free. Turn on notifications so you know when we're going live. And we will catch you guys next time to talk more SEC football for daily SEC coverage right here on Southeastern 14.